Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am trying something new today. I wanted to see if this podcast format is going to fit a lot better with what I want to do for this channel. But before I get into this, hello. If you haven't met me or seen any of my content before, my name is Vero. I help you all glow, grow, and thrive through those toxic relationships and jealousies in your life. So let's start healing together, because in this channel, we are both growing together. Now, the reason why I wanted to switch things into a bit more of a podcast style in full transparency is one, to also see if I can be a bit more consistent with this and see if it's more reliable in terms of being able to create content with ease. And secondly, it's more authentic to the kind of direction I want to be taking this channel and my content. I feel like at my core, I am a person that just likes to have one-on-one conversations with you, helping you through whatever it is. It feels more genuine on my end and more, organic to be able to speak to you like this rather than having all the bells and whistles of editing and funny quirks that can come into a video, which is still fun, but at the same time, I think it's not technically me. And I've wanted to always try to be a bit more freeform like this. And again, a bit more flow and free and genuine with the kind of conversations that we are having about these topics. Speaking of topics, I'm really excited about this episode's topic because I will be going over what we can do when your partner has a best friend who is of the opposite gender, or a best friend who is a little bit sus that you are feeling insecure about. And when I say this, it also can apply to any kind of genders in a relationship. I feel like jealousy is very similar to everybody when experienced. And we all know that feeling of knowing that one person that they're really close to that claims to be their best friend, but you kind of get that weird feeling about. So I'm going to go over that topic today because everybody essentially has been trying to ask about advice around this, and at some point in their lives have experienced something similar to this. So I feel like this is a very global feeling that I'm going to be going over today. And I wrote some key points here, so if I go over my notes, it's just to make sure that I'll be on topic here. And also because this format is new, I want to be able to make sure everything's running pretty smoothly for you. And if there's hiccups along the way, I apologize. Obviously, I'm trying this for the first time for this channel, so thank you for your patience. And yeah. So before I actually go into the tips and the advice and the reflection about, in this case, your partner having a female best friend or someone who's super close that they can't seem to get rid of in their life, or necessarily, I guess in this mindset, you want to get rid of them, but isn't necessarily going anywhere, is how I can say it. So I wanted to kind of dive into a story time, just so you know that I know exactly where you're coming from. And just so you know, you can also learn from my experiences, or just, reflect and listen and realize that we all have similar experiences in some shape, way, or form. And sometimes the tea is just juicy. You just want to know the tea. You just want to know how I got here and why I'm doing this and what led me to be in this place. So I've talked about this before. I've been in a few relationships where I have been cheated on. And my most recent relationship, where actually, life update, I got engaged. So that's also been part of my what's been keeping me occupied lately, now that I have to kind of put in the cap of wedding planning and being engaged and being in that season in my life. So bear with me while I'm sorting that all out. But all that to say, going back to the topic, and basically all the relationships I've been in, I've experienced some form of infidelity, some form of betrayal, some sort of bitch that's on the other side, excuse my French again, like at the time, obviously, no one knew any better and no one knew how to really solve their inner problems. So that's why they acted a certain way. And, I look back at these experiences with grace, but I am also coming from a very honest place. And I hope you guys also, appreciate the genuinity, if that's the word, of how I'm going over these topics. And, everyone will have their opinion about how I say things and how I do things. So I'm just being me at the end of the day. I try not to tiptoe about the things that I say to you, to anybody, because I just want to be as genuine as I can. But also I will take feedback and I will learn from it. Anyways, go on. Going on to the actual topic at hand. I've been in a lot of relationships that I have been cheated on. And whether it be even in situationships where I felt like it was very serious and it was going a certain direction, there was always something that just happened. I get blindsided and something happens, some person gets in the way, and I just end up always being the second choice, or just, not important enough, but still somebody that they wanted to keep around. But the topic is basically partners who have best friends or girlfriends or friends that you don't have a good feeling about, or your insecurities are telling you that you don't feel comfortable around this person. In the most horrendous and painful relationship that I was in, I've made some videos about talking about my truth and my experiences about that in my past videos. So if you want a bit more context about that, go ahead and go over there. Trigger warning as well, because it does go over very serious topics. So I wanted to give you a heads up if that's something you wanted to dive into. But in that very bad relationship, let's call him David. Good old David here was sort of like a very charismatic person. Basically, we were working at the same job, and they're very charismatic. They've been there for a while, so they kind of felt like they were running the whole scene, and I, for whatever reason, was drawn to that energy. And that also meant that they had a lot of friends. And I was sort of a new person coming into that world and wanted to fit in and wanted to make friends, because this was one of the first jobs that I've gotten where I was with people that were in my age range. And so when we got into the relationship, I realized that he's also a very friendly person. And there was this one girl who claims to be his best friend. They've been best friends since high school and elementary school. So they were very, very close. They're very, very close. And I didn't have much thoughts about this, because this was the very first time I was really betrayed in such an odd and just shocking, jaw-dropping way. But I never had an assumption to be a bit suspicious about her in the beginning. She was a little over the top, but, people just have that kind of personality, and I didn't think much of it. So she would always compliment me about how, like, he's met the one in me, or he really found like a gem in me, and I can't believe that I settled for him, or I can't believe he landed me, whatever. So she was gassing me up, essentially. She was really pumping my gas. And I was like, oh, I like her. She's making me feel good. But in the back of my mind, I thought it was odd that she constantly was making me feel like I was so important to him. And in hindsight now, I definitely know why. But at the time, I was like, oh, she's very nice. She really approves of me with him. I like that feeling. So I'm not going to think of much of it. And so I should have taken that a little bit as a red flag, only because she would constantly say that, and in most times always say that whenever we were together. So it's not something that I need to hear all the time, but it was something that just stuck out, that she had to continually point out. So from there, I remember there was a moment where I had to walk over to my partner's place at the time. And David lived about 40 minutes away from me, and I didn't have a car at the time, so I either had to transit or I had to walk over to their place. So their place was 40 minutes away from me uphill. I don't remember if I decided to transit or I walked. Either way, it was grueling because it was an uphill journey and the stops to their place wasn't anywhere comfortable in terms of walking either way. So I remember it just being a tiring trek. So I went over to their place. It must have been after a shift, and I was really, really tired, and I just wanted to see them. And I had come over, and David had let me know prior that his parents were away on a trip. So I was like, oh, cool. We'll have the place to ourselves. We'll hang out. And so I come over, and it's really, really quiet. I wasn't sure if he knew that I was already over or he expected me at that time. So I came over, saw him, and it was pretty late. It was around like 9 or 10, and we're about to, get ready to go to sleep. So I'm just getting ready, and I go over to his bed. And as I'm about to like lie down or just, get into it, I noticed that there was a used, not a new, a used condom on the bed. I immediately felt the blood leave my body, and immediately my body went cold. I was so confused by the feeling because this was something that I haven't experienced before in terms of like visually seeing something like that. So I didn't know how to handle myself at first. And as soon as the temperature left my body, I think rage just started to settle in. And I marched into the living room where he was and didn't realize I marched into the living room where he was and I said, why the hell is there a condom on your bed? And I had known that the girl had visited that day because he told me that he was hanging out with her. And I was just like, why is there a condom in your bed? What the hell is this? Like, what? And he, for whatever reason, was so calm and cool about this. And that's when I knew I should have been afraid. He was so calm and cool about it. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about that. That's just what I use for my personal time, when I need to take care of myself, I use that so there's no mess. The confidence that this person had to give me that explanation is beyond me. And again, should have known, but I was naive, obviously. And it's quite frankly kind of scary how calm and collected that person was. But anyways, he said, yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's just something that I use in my personal time. It's nothing to think about. And the fact that it was so calmly said to me made me even feel like there was no reason for me to continue asking more questions. So I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a little weird. I'm kind of new in relationships too. I'm like, all right, maybe I don't have a reason to think much about that. And so I didn't question it any further after that, but we know exactly, and I know now exactly what happened there. And the truth revealed itself later in the relationship. And along that relationship as well, I was cheated on multiple times with other people. He grew really close to someone in his college and they ended up cheating and having some whatever together. I also heard that he had something with his boss at the same job that we were at. And it all stems from, women being suspiciously close to him. And that then fed my belief that I can't trust women that are really, really close to a man. So that's where that all stems from. And I'm sure everyone in this world can relate to that feeling if you've gone through something like that. So after having that belief hammered in my brain multiple times after finding out everything, I knew from there that I couldn't trust any man that had a girl as a friend. So I continued to be in situationships or be in relationships where if they did have girls as friends, I would viciously and aggressively ask them to cut them off from their life. And I would aggressively break down or have fights or just lose it if they retaliated in some sort. And, that's where your hypervigilance starts to kick in, because it's a defense mechanism protecting you from experiencing anything extremely stupid and painful like what I had gone through ever again. So you start to look for clues. You start to look for hints about where things can go wrong, where, you're trying to protect yourself and make sure that this person is not a cheater. But, obviously living with that mindset for years was not healthy in trying to form healthy relationships. So now I'm going to dive into the topic itself about what do we do around stuff like that. And when you're in a loving relationship, how do you prevent yourself from betraying the trust that you want to give them without hurting yourself or without needing to protect yourself so much? And how do you just let yourself be comfortable in that space? So, with all that being said, it's very nuanced. And I think it really just comes down to the comfortability, and compatibility of yourself and your partner, as well as respecting the boundaries that you need to stay true to. So, I've talked about jealousy and why that is, why it exists. I've gone over it in a lot of videos. And if you want a bit more of a breakdown on that, you can definitely check out other content that I've made. But once you understand why you react that way and why jealousy exists and why those triggering mechanisms are there, you'll understand essentially in a more mindful and self-loving place as to why you react that way. Again, it's just a defense mechanism meant to protect yourself. So I totally understand that it's very anxiety inducing. And for a very long time, in this relationship that I am in now, where I am engaged, the beginning of the relationship was a bit rough because I was still really navigating those feelings. And I had to be able to grow in this relationship, to be able to be where I am today and get out of my comfort zones. And I'm going to kind of go over how I did that successfully and was able to reteach a few things that bothered me for a very long time. So, again, like I've said in the beginning, comfortability and compatibility is very important. And as much as everything is really nuanced, I also am very open and honest about how you should feel and how my take on this reflects on the situation. And it's, being honest, not going to be something I think a lot of people will be comfortable hearing. And sometimes it's a hard truth that I think you all have to face at some point, to be realistic with yourself and to also allow yourself the happiness that you deserve. Because if you're not being real with yourself and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to draw up those boundaries, then you're going to be stuck feeling very anxious. You're going to be in a loop of jealousy, and that's not good for anybody. So what I mean by that is that I think there is a certain degree of compatibility in terms of boundaries where you and your partner agree on. So what do I mean by this? You need to see how compatible you are in regards to what female friendships in a relationship look like to you. Do you know that those female friendships really mean nothing? What is your partner's thoughts on female friendships? What are their thoughts on you drawing some boundaries about it? What are your thoughts on, what are their thoughts on you asking them to essentially cut off communication or slowly, draw more boundaries for the sake of the relationship? And those are questions that I think a lot of people are afraid to ask and afraid to go over. But I think these are the key to essentially helping you heal that part of yourself. Because if you're not able to admit that you and your partner may be incompatible in those areas, then again, you're just going to be stuck on a loop, because in essence, you can't change someone that quickly. Just as much as how if they ask you to just stop being jealous, or they ask you to stop freaking out about things, it doesn't just happen overnight. This is something that takes time. This is something that you need proof, you need work, you need a lot of elements that go into it to be able to even put on that mindset. So that's why I say compatibility is so important in a topic like this, because for example, if your partner thinks that female friendships is totally okay and that they expect their partner to have no issues about how often they see those female friends, how they hang out with those female friends, how they interact with those female friends, and they want no involvement on your end on those friendships, then and on the other hand, you are someone who really wants to draw a line in these female friendships. You really want to put up some boundaries in place. You really want to explain to them how things feel uncomfortable or doesn't look necessarily friendly versus, a bit more intimate. If you guys are on separate pages on that, it is very hard to try to find a middle ground when it's two people with different mindsets that have been there for a very long time. Those things aren't easy to change. Now, you can definitely have conversations about this, and if they are receptive to be able to change those habits about them, as well as you come to a place of compromise or meeting in the middle, then there's some opportunity and potential there to be able to grow a loving relationship with open communication. But if you guys are head set straight on your views on those friendships, I hate to break it to you and I hate to be the messenger on this, but I don't think it's going to work. You guys are going to be constantly in a loop of seeing who's right, seeing who's wrong, and you're going to be worried about that person, and that person's going to feel like you're trapping them, and it's just going to be messy in general. And I'm sorry again that this is just a hard truth that's got to slap you in the face, but I really don't think that if you guys aren't comfortable with that, or you're not compatible in that sense, it's not really going to work, because that kind of work to be able to meet in the middle takes time, and it takes effort that they need to be willing to give to be able to get there. So that's my first point. And compatibility and being comfortable is really important to be able to nurture the wounds that you've received and to be able to heal them again. So my my fiance and I have been going to couples therapy. And the therapist has told us that when we are in a relationship, that is the only form of intimacy that can really heal and rewire the trauma that we've been through. So what do I mean by that? Is that, as much as you can heal outside of of a relationship and be single and really work on yourself, there are triggers that only a relationship can give you. There are triggers and traumas that will bring up that only a relationship can really shine light on, that will not come up when you are on your own. And only a relationship can be the one to heal those wounds and those traumas and rewire some thinking and rewire the brain to be able to love differently, to respond differently, to see trauma differently. And I have experienced that so much firsthand in this relationship right now. That's why we are in such a good place, because we have retaught ourselves a lot of the love that we've experienced, and we've healed a lot of ourselves within the relationship. And that's why I fully admit and am open to how it was very messy in the beginning, but now we are in such a good place that we are so solid. And obviously there were bumps in the road, but we finally got to a place where I trust him fully, and it has healed such a big part of me that the things that used to scare me before, I do not even feel worried about in the slightest anymore. And that is a lot. And that's something that I can truly be proud of. And that's why I wanted to have these kind of conversations with you to be able to get you all to reach a place like that as well. Now, in saying that, when it comes to female friendships, and now in the case that you and your partner have some similarities about the views of female friendships, and in some ways they are receptive to the feedback that you give them, and it'll just be, continuing to work on it, continuing to reiterate the boundaries that you want to place, and them allowing you the space to listen to you, and allowing them the opportunity to be able to prove to you that they care about your point of view, and that they care about your feelings, and that they respect your decision. So, with that being said, when they are receptive to the feedback you give them and the boundaries you've drawn, and you are still feeling triggered and still feeling jealous, then you have to ask yourself, what part of that is making you feel really uncomfortable? What part of it, even though he's responding well, even though he is listening to you and giving you the space to talk about this, and really loving you for who you are regardless, and is wanting to work on the relationship with you, what part of you is still wanting to be triggered about it? Is it because you feel like that friend in comparison to you makes you feel insecure about yourself? Is it the amount of time that they are having with them versus you? Is this because of the things that they would say to each other versus the things that they would say to you in the relationship? And a lot of these points, I could go on, are decent flags to really pay attention to. Because if you're still feeling worried, then you really need to look into the relationship and look at your partner and see if they're really filling that checklist off that you need to feel safe. And you really need to evaluate if they are giving you that safe space. Are they making you feel reassured, making you feel like there's nothing to worry about? And if you even have the slightest reason to say that, this isn't necessarily something that he makes me feel safe, but that's okay because this is this, then if you're trying to negotiate that, you need to make the decision within yourself if that's something that you can continue to be comfortable with, or if you're just going to be unhappy. Because if you can decide that you can be comfortable with that, and that's something that you know that they can't necessarily change, or they struggle with changing, or is hard for them to, see your side, then that's a decision you need to move forward with to be able to meet them at that level, to be able to have a relationship with open communication and no resentment and growth moving forward. But if you know in your heart of heart that bothers you and that one thing you just can't shake, then you really need to reflect and see if this relationship is worth salvaging at that, because of that one, breaking point. Because I know what that looks like and I know what that feels like. And the more you continue to negotiate with yourself, the more unhappy you'll get. And as my therapist says, the more you try to control something, the less in control you are. So I would just really advise to reflect on what's bothering you and be honest with yourself, because you only have one life to live, and you want to make sure that you give yourself the best opportunity. You give yourself the happiness that you deserve. So I would just advise to really reflect on what you are looking for and what makes you comfortable and what boundaries you have in the relationship before really saying like, oh, it's because of this woman, or, oh, it's because of this person. Just really understand, like, are you two compatible? Like, are you two meant to agree on this? And do you guys see eye to eye on this? And that's something that I can say in my relationship, that him and I have a lot in common. We agree on our views on those friendships. We agree on those boundaries that we place for each other. We agree on our own morals. And that's why I feel like it allowed me the space to really heal And it allowed me the space to reform what love looks like to me, because that exists, that compatibility exists, that person that I've only dreamt of really exists, and I'm with them and they make me feel safe and loved. And that's what I want for all of you too. And as sad as it sounds, because I know a lot of the times this comes up when you've been in a relationship for so long already. Some people have been in a relationship for 2 to 3, 5, 10 years, and they still have this lingering feeling about this topic. I implore you to really challenge the thought in a way where you are giving yourself grace and allowing yourself to have the love that you deserve. So, with that being said, I just want to make sure that you know with full eyes wide open what you're getting into in these kind of relationships. So, if you know your partner has that one thing about that female friendship that seems to make you feel uncomfortable, and they are just not pivoting or not really doing anything about it, then, it opens up a bigger conversation. And I implore you to look out for yourself in that situation and see if this is worth the relationship anxiety that it's giving you. If this person is worth the relationship anxiety it's giving you, then you need to be able to analyze and understand that that's something you just have to live with if you want to be with this person. And you need to understand that you have to be okay with it and you have to accept it. Because if you don't, then you know that relationship is not exactly what you're looking for. Like, it's clear as day almost, the way you wrestle at night with the thoughts of that female friendship, the way you can't eat because of the thought of them hanging out. That is just not healthy. It's not happy. You're not living your best life. You're not in a relationship that's the best fit for you. And it's not going to teach you how to heal those wounds that you have, because the wounds that can heal can only be in a relationship that gives you that. So just really keep that in mind. You need to be in a relationship that allows you the space to heal those wounds. And if they continue to poke and add salt and just rip it back open, then that is not the relationship. I am sorry, but that is just the truth. And so to all my friends and people who message me saying, oh, he does this, but I really need to heal this part of myself, or he does this and I really need to get past that. And just ask yourself then, how long have you been living with that feeling? And if this is something that they just cannot change, are you okay with being okay with it? That's essentially the question at the end of the day. Because, if you're not happy, you're not happy. And that's just the end of it. So, yeah. Anyways, my battery is running out. I didn't think this episode was going to be that long, but if you enjoyed it, thank you so much for listening. And so the video is done, but I'm just going to see if I can extend the audio in terms of video editing. But yes, thank you so much for listening. I am on your side. I just want you to continue to be happy, to continue to look for the kind of relationship that you deserve, and for your boundaries to be respected. That's just, the truth at the end of the day. If you're not comfortable with something, you need to find somebody who meets you at that level and can give that to you. So I implore you to be able to recognize your boundaries and give yourself the respect you deserve to find somebody that respects you. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening to this new format of an episode. I hope you all have a really good day, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much. And, continue to glow, grow, and thrive. See you at the next one. Bye.